Welcome everybody back to the DomCast episode 14. We are here on a Sunday afternoon, actually. Really rare recording because Super Bowl, I don't know what number Super Bowl this is, but it is upon us today. I'll probably dabble in it a little bit. And I'm back here with a guest for the first time in probably 3 weeks to a month. So I guess y'all already know, apparently, y'all liked in the comments. I guess he's a funny guy. What's good with you, Bucket? This is Bucket Patrol.
Hey, back like I never left. I know y'all was loving that DeAndre Jordan couldn't guard a parked car with the AR and affluent neighborhood joke, so I figured I'd come back with a couple more zines.
Hey. Yeah, I didn't even, I ain't gonna hold you, I didn't catch that one the first time, but yeah, I went back and watched it. I was like, oh yeah, okay, it was a couple of good shots in here, a couple of hitters. Before we get into basketball talk, because we got quite a bit, today's pretty much the trade episode. I have the Celtics and Hawks going at the same time, looking like we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up for our 8th win. But before we get into that, who do you have a pick tonight for the Super Bowl? And I know for me, Brady's not here. Normally, every time I show up at the end of the year for this one football game, and normally Brady is there, and now he's not, so I just kind of really don't care. But I don't know. What do you think?
I really don't care, but I'm from Kentucky, and we have no professional teams because Kentucky is a black hole of bourbon and racism. So we have no professional teams of any kind. But Ohio is right across the Ohio River, so it's about as close to home as a home team can be for Kentucky. So plus, Joe Shiesty's done more for the culture than Joe Biden, so we rolling with the Bengals for sure. I really don't care who wins, but I'm rooting for the Bengals. So
man, starting the podcast off with Kentucky slander. Gotta love it. I don't think I've ever gotten on Kentucky before. We roasted Cleveland, we roasted Wyoming. I don't think Kentucky slander is news. So Bucket Patrol already adding value to the channel, to the podcast.
You gotta diversify the portfolio, dog.
Facts, man. Can't keep giving them the same bits. Well, right. This trade deadline didn't give us the same bits, man. This was nuts. So it was really weird because we came into this, and like 2 weeks ago, I feel like we heard about the James Harden Sixers thing that was going on. It was just a report that was like, there's got to be some type of, not research, that's the wrong word. They got to look into tampering because Philly and Harden, they're linked. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I've heard about that before. Here we are 2 weeks later, all of a sudden Harden's not playing in games anymore. He's got a random hand strain. His hamstring issue is back. He's being held out of games. And then we get the trade. So for those of y'all who are regular listeners, I told y'all it was going to happen. If I said it wasn't going to happen, it would happen. Said it wasn't going to happen last week because I didn't think Harden was going to get traded. Before we get into what the deal was, did you think that was going to happen this season? Did you think that the Ben Simmons thing was going to get resolved this season? Or did this catch you off guard?
To be honest, I think at the beginning of the year, I thought it was going to happen like quarter in the way and nothing that really come together because they were asking for literally everything in the kitchen sink. So I figured it wasn't. But I think the pressure got put on him because Joel Embiid was having such a monster season that you never know when his health is going to become an issue. And you kind of got to take your chances now while the iron is hot. So once I knew that they were probably going to really push this season because of how great Joel Embiid was playing, I was thinking they're going to try to go for somebody. To be honest, before James Harden started talking about how much he didn't want to be in Brooklyn, I kind of thought it was going to be Dame because Portland, as soon as they traded Norman Powell for like a napkin and a chip, I was like, okay, yeah, they're just not trying anymore. So I thought maybe it would be Dame, but then after James Harden said, yeah, I'm out, I figured it was going to be him. Plus, Daryl Morey is with the 76ers, and James Harden is like that one ex that he'd let get away, who's thinking about every day about how he can get her back. So as soon as I seen and it also makes sense for both teams. I know we're going to talk about the logistics of how it changes the format for each teams, but I mean, it just made sense. So once I knew James Harden didn't want to be there, it just seemed like it was a hand in glove fit for both teams.
Right. And I guess my thing was not really knowing if Harden didn't want to be there or not, because there was a lot of different stories coming out, none of which were really from him. We never heard him explicitly like he did in Houston, where he just said, I can't win here, I want to go. I feel like we hadn't heard it from him. We'd heard a lot of things around it. I guess the kind of giveaway for me was when they asked Steve Nash if he was going to be traded. And Steve Nash just said no. And that's the only quote that I saw, was that he said no. He didn't really elaborate. And that's how maybe he did elaborate, but the quote that I saw, he didn't. So I was like, okay, maybe there's some truth to it, but I still don't believe they can get this done by Thursday. That's a monumental trade. You're talking about James Harden on this Nets team that really never got to play together, fam. They played 16 games together total. Went 13-3 since last season when he was traded on. By the way, there was a lot of inaccuracies in that Nets video that I posted on my main channel. For those of y'all listening, I was having a tough day. It wasn't January 20th he got traded. He played his first game for them on the 16th, so I miscounted a little bit. But yeah, so they play 16 games, injury after injury, never get on the floor together. We get to this season, the whole vaccine thing happens, and Kyrie now can't play for most of the year, and now he's back, and that's going how it's going. But Harden, it's funny. One of the last reports we saw before he got traded was like, oh, and it was from Woj, so anything that comes from Woj, I assume is legit. And it was something like, oh, Harden he wants out, but he doesn't really want people to know that he's wanting out, so he's not requesting it because he don't want to get cooked. Because he's now he played with Chris Paul, he played with all these people.
Last year. Last year.
Yeah, exactly, barely a year ago. But I didn't blame him for wanting out of this situation because first of all, you have no clue what's going on with Kyrie. He still has a player option, so don't know where he's going to be next year. They're probably not getting the shot, so don't know if he's going to be able to play if y'all were to make it to the finals. And if I'm James Harden, I'm pissed. Like, bro, I'm off this hamstring injury that I didn't really get to rehab for. I didn't get to work as much as I normally do during the summer, and I come back and Kyrie's on this goofy shit, so I can't. I basically have a heavier load that I have to carry. This is not a situation that I know if I can win in. I didn't blame him for winning out. I don't know. Maybe you feel differently, but I kind of saw this coming.
I don't blame him at all. In Houston, I kind of felt like he had a quitter mentality because he, just kind of crying a little bit. And I feel like a lot of the things he was crying about was his fault because he was one basically handpicking the people he wanted to be on that team and who they were trading to get those people. So Houston annoyed me a bit. Brooklyn, to me, he got sold a bag of goods that when he opened the bag, it wasn't exactly what he was sold on because, I was being bought on to being a part of a super team with KD and Kyrie. KD, he was coming off the Achilles, so obviously he's been injured in and out, but he's been hooping. When KD's at least healthy, he's going to go out there and he's going to play. But Kyrie is a part-time player. This man is clocking a $20 hour a week W-2 type job in the NBA right now, just showing up whenever he feels like it. Only can play away games. Burning sage, doing a whole bunch of nonsense, and I don't want to turn this into a conversation about vax, anti-vax, because that's not what it's about. But to me, as a guy who's committed to winning, to accomplishing whatever we set out to do, there are sacrifices that are required. And I get that maybe you're anti-vax, but you're literally putting your personal philosophies, your personal ideologies on what you want to do with your life ahead of the team, which I understand, but that's not what I was sold on. If I was KD, honestly, I feel like KD's got to either be the realest dude of all time or he just doesn't put his grievances out publicly because this man, he pretty much what KD did was leave Apple. He was like an executive at Apple and he literally left to work for a non-functioning startup out of Brooklyn because he left the Apple of the NBA to join some high-risk startup that is not panning out. And he's not made any mention of it. And James Harden was like, hey, you can do that, but I'm out. I'm good. So I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at him at all.
Man, nah, I think about KD sometimes too, because what's happened with him is I felt like it was a show of good faith to those two earlier this season when he signed his extension before anything. So he's now locked up until 2027 as a Brooklyn Net. Of course, a star player can basically get out of any type of contract that he wants. So that's the whole thing. But I doubt he would ever try to get out of Brooklyn.
I can't wait until this new collective bargaining agreement comes out because the owner's about to lay the hammer. The correction that's about to happen with AD, with Kawhi, with Ben Simmons, with James Harden twice. The corrections about to happen this year on owners' control over player salaries and contracts is going to be ridiculous. It might be a lockout. That is something that I think is going to happen. I don't even know when that happens, but I think it's something to watch because players have gotten way out of control with their control over what they do with their owners' money and their availability. But yeah, 100%.
I hope we're not headed towards a lockout. I've lived through one already, and that was a very, very dark time. Probably the third darkest time in my entire life.
Legendary though.
Say what?
Those Drew League mixtapes, legendary.
Oh, facts. Yeah, that was a time. Harden, Kobe. But speaking of that, so we can go ahead and talk about the actual trade then, because after all, you can what Ben Simmons did was really expensive, and I'm not sure how many other players would do it. But at the end of the day, he got everything he wanted. Not only he gets traded to a contender. So the full trade, because it wasn't just James Harden, that kind of goes under the radar. It's actually Paul Millsap too, because he wanted out, and they promised him that they would find him a place. So Sixers get James Harden and Paul Millsap. The Nets going to be receiving Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, 22 first-round pick, and a 27 first-round pick. So it's this is an interesting deal. Like, we had been hearing about, oh, you know, maybe it should just be a straight up swap because Harden's only got a year on his contract. Of course, as a part of this deal, he did accept the $47 million option. So he's under contract for the Sixers for the rest of the season and all the next season. They give up Seth Curry, who's been super important to their winning this year, to their spacing, to helping Joel Embiid out. They gave up Andre Drummond, who's actually been, to me, pretty solid as a backup big and just having a certain role. He's been solid for that. So I don't know if I normally get on to like who won the trade, especially because you just never know how many different things are going to happen. But I'm very fascinated, because one thing that kind of goes under the radar is, hey, at this point in the season, it's February, James Harden is still really off and on now. Like, this is not Houston James Harden yet. This is still Harden that's not particularly shooting the ball great. This is Harden that sometimes he goes on a stretch and he looks kind of explosive, and then he looks like he did earlier in the season. It's kind of all over the place. So putting him with Philly, look, you have that chance to get rid of Ben Simmons. Harden, regardless of what shape he is right now, I think that was probably the best deal you were going to get. Putting James Harden and Embiid together is literally that was the best that you could come out of this. Sometimes, normally, when you trade a star, that don't even happen. So Nets get their second guy. The Sixers, with the way that their roster was constructed, were not contenders to me this year, so you had to make a move anyways. You got rid of Ben Simmons, you solved that. For the Nets, you get Ben Simmons, who for a while I've thought would fit with that big three anyways. Whether it was Kyrie or Harden that got traded, thought Ben Simmons would work well with KD and one of those other guys. And you got Seth Curry, that's a floor spacer. You get Drummond, obviously not going to help your defense, but back up big, and you get the picks as well. I think both teams kind of got what they needed out of this, honestly, given that how messy it was and the stature of the players involved. I think they both kind of got what they needed.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think this is one of the rare times where you trade a superstar level player and get pretty much equivalent value. That almost never happens. You look at when AD got traded from the Pelicans, or when the Thunder traded PG, or when Kawhi got traded to Toronto. Like, pretty much you look at that trade and it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, you lost a superstar and you basically just took back, 50 cents for the dollar that you traded. I think in this case, it's about as even as it gets. And really, if you think about fit-wise, they might even be better off now than they were before, if you consider fit. Because in my mind, they were kind of winning by talent, just pure talent. Because, I mean, you got KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. That's a tough three of the top 10 scorers maybe ever. So that's kind of just deals with itself. But they weren't very deep. They definitely didn't have any bigs. And now you get a guy in Ben Simmons who I think will probably be a small ball five and your primary facilitator, and Kyrie goes to that 2 spot. KD obviously just do what KD does. Added shooting with Seth Curry. And they got a big, because eventually, I think it's going to be really interesting, they're going to eventually end up playing the 76ers, and you got a big who can now match up with Joel Embiid, though Joel Embiid takes Andre Drummond's lunch money every time they play against each other, so we'll see how that goes. But at least they got a big body to throw at him time to time. So I think both sides win. I don't know what those picks are going to look like, because are those actually the 76ers picks? Are they like swaps with like other teams or anything?
With what I'm looking at right now, it doesn't say that these picks are via anybody, and it doesn't say anything about pick swap either. So yeah, no, I think these were definitely just the 76ers picks.
Yeah, so hard to say how much those would be worth. 2022 probably won't be worth much. 2027, I mean, who knows? But I'd say on both ends, everybody kind of got what they wanted. This is about as close to a win-win trade as you probably could have got for trading James Harden. I don't know what else was even on the table. I didn't really hear any rumors about anything else except Ben Simmons. I don't know what other deals were on the table, but I imagine if I saw them all lined up together, this one would definitely be the best for all parties involved.
Right. So looking at these teams individually, it gets interesting now that we know the future of their rosters. Brooklyn has just had a hell of a time since Kevin Durant went out. He somebody, I can't remember, I think his own teammate crashed into his knee. I believe it resulted in a sprained MCL. Since he's been gone, Kyrie part-time has been able to play away games, but then Harden went out as well. So you're basically just looking at home games, nobody playing, and then away games, Kyrie. That's basically it. Because of that, the Brooklyn Nets have lost 11 straight games. They were in that mix for the top 4 before. They're now 7.5 games out of first. They fall into 8th seed, bro. They fall into the play-in. Yeah, shadow round they go, basically. And it's a peculiar situation in Brooklyn now. So yeah, you solved the Harden thing. And you did good too, because Simmons is under contract for quite some time now. I think when Daryl Morey was talking, it was like another 4 years he's got. So you hang on to Ben, you got KD under contract. Who knows what's going to happen with Kyrie? Obviously now you can't, if you were going to do some type of trade or sign and trade thing, it would be in the offseason if that's what it came to. For this season, still, I am not high on their chances only because part-time Kyrie. So I agree, Ben Simmons is going to be great for them. Ben Simmons, like you said, sometimes small ball 5. They're definitely going to be using him as forward or center. I don't see him being used as guard on this team. That makes no sense after you saw him playing with Philly. You don't need Ben Simmons to be a guard. You can unlock him another way. Cool. There's plenty to be creative with. Just when it comes down to it, first of all, Kevin Durant is still a ways away, apparently. He's not even playing in the All-Star game. So you're getting KD back at some point down the road. Ben Simmons has to ramp up. I'm not sure when he's actually going to enter the lineup. It's you solved this problem as well as you could, but okay, lost this many games, you're an A seed. Hell, at this point, it's becoming a possibility. It's hard, but after everybody gets back, at some point you might end up with like a Brooklyn and Toronto first round series. Brooklyn and Toronto first round series means Kyrie can't play at all. Like if one of them ended up 4 and the other ended up 5, it's not likely, but Kyrie couldn't play in that series at all. It just feels like Brooklyn has too much shit going on to probably rebound this season, even after this trade. I think it's something definitely that's good for the future, but I'd be sitting here pretty dumbfounded if they were able to turn all this around and go win a title. But that's going to be an annoying ace seed for somebody if it does turn out that way. If they keep slipping, and they've slipped so much that their seeding, it makes them hard to get out of the play-in. Imagine your ace seed is Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons and half of Kyrie. That's still not anything a high seed probably wants to deal with.
That's a bracket buster for sure. That's a bracket buster for sure. You work all that time the regular season to get the 1 seed just to play the real 1 seed. Like,
yeah, and that could be, oh my god, really what that could be is Cleveland in the first seed, because they're 2 games out of first. So you get like Cleveland first seed, Brooklyn that's 8, and all of a sudden it's a thing where, okay, Cleveland is cool. Cleveland is really good. Don't get me wrong. They're a good young team, but that's exactly what they are, is a good young team. If you're a contender of any sort, I would kind of imagine you would, out of your options, you probably would want to play the Cavaliers in the first round before you played Chicago, or before you played Miami, or before you played the Bucks, or before you played Harden and Embiid. Your first round matchup, for your best chance, if you're a team that's just kind of been slipping, is to play Cleveland in that first round. So I don't know. That's kind of those are just some of my thoughts on Brooklyn's future after the trade. And after you give yours, we can kind of move on to Philly and then move on to some other trades.
Well, I mean, you tackled a lot of it. I think to me, the Nets season and the entire landscape of the East is all dictated by whether New York City lifts the vaccine mandate. If you get full-time Kyrie, at least for when he plays against teams that allow, non-vaccinated players in the arena, I think they're the best team in the East. And if they don't, and also there's a big variable because you got to know, what is Ben Simmons even going to look like? I'm taking the over/under on DraftKings for him making a 3 his first game he plays for Brooklyn, just because. But we don't even know what he's going to look like. Last time we seen him play, he was afraid to dunk on 5'11" point guard. So I don't know how much of that was just him being in Philly. Maybe a new change of scenery will help him with his confidence. And KD, apparently they already talked and he's super excited about playing with KD and being in Brooklyn. So we'll see what that looks like. But if Kyrie plays full time, even part time, if Ben Simmons is as good as we think Ben Simmons can be, I think outside of the Bucks and the 76ers, if James Harden, Joel Embiid kind of get in that Kobe Shaq level of rhythm, then they're easily the best team in the East. And I would even pick them to beat whoever comes out of the West outside of maybe Phoenix. I don't really think Golden State. I like Golden State, and they just beat the Lakers the other day. I'm so upset about that. LeBron out here breaking clutch free throws. But I don't really see anybody in the West outside of Phoenix being able to hang with them at full strength. So it's gonna be interesting. I think we really just need to look at what that vax mandate is gonna look like for New York, and if they lift it, I think they're coming out the East.
This is a totally pointless NBA Twitter question, but for the Brooklyn Nets, now Ben Simmons, KD, Kyrie, are they a super team still? Putting you on the spot.
No, I'm gonna say no. To me, a super team is 3 superstar or borderline superstar players. To me, I don't even know if there are any super teams in the NBA right now. Now that I think about it, I think the super team's it's not dead. But all the teams I see are like 2 really good players and then like a third pretty good one, like LeBron, AD, and Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and I guess Lonzo, the Heat, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, like the Bucks, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis. There's not really any super teams. They're all just like really good duos with a strong third cast member, I guess. So I'm gonna say nah. Now Ben Simmons comes out here and he's averaging 20, 10, and 10. And Kyrie plays full time and KD's KD, then we can have another conversation. But today I'm gonna go ahead and say nah.
I should have done a poll on that for Twitter. I asked that question, but it just ended up being responses. I don't know. I should have polled it, but it is what it is because we could have seen what the majority of NBA Twitter thinks, what the experts think. 76ers. So to wrap up this trade, James Harden is there. You get James Harden, Joel Embiid, Seth Curry gone. Interesting thing about the trade was that they did this and they kept Matisse Thybulle. You ended up keeping Tyrese Maxey. As far as getting a guy who still might come back next year and be one of the best players in the league, I think you came away okay if you're Philly. And I guess now moving forward, it'll just be about that dynamic between Harden and Embiid, because at its best, yes, that's just makes the Eastern Conference so damn crazy, man. It's been wild to watch the evolution of the East basically since LeBron has left. It was a very mid-conference, and now you've got the 5th-seeded Sixers, who have arguably at full strength could turn into what you think is the best duo in the NBA. It all depends, because everything is just health is just all over the place for guys right now. But yeah, Harden, and I know Embiid said that Harden is the best teammate he's ever played with, and people start comparing 2019 Jimmy Butler versus 2022 James Harden. That is an interesting dynamic. It's
so crazy, Matt, because I completely forgot that Jimmy Butler was with the Sixers in 2019.
Yeah, because it was
forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, because it was like half a season, basically, I believe. He was traded there, and they went far, and Kawhi broke their hearts, and that was it. He jetted. So that Philly team didn't even get to really scratch the surface of what they were about. That was a really damn good team. Yeah, I'll just be looking for what those two can do, how quickly they can perfect pick and roll basketball and pick and pop. Just screens in general will be really interesting. Harden, again, especially right now in his current shape, his lack of defense, it's going to be interesting on this Sixers team. It's not like Seth Curry was a lockdown defender or anything, or anybody they gave up for him. Ben Simmons was the guy, but he wasn't playing this year anyways. Hell, since Ben Simmons wasn't playing, it was essentially like you just traded Seth Curry and Andre Drummond for Harden, which I'd be pretty happy with. I don't know, man. Eastern Conference is a damn clusterfuck, because
the Eastern Conference is gonna be a bloodbath this year, because Miami is the 1 seed. They haven't even been at full strength most of the season. Then the Bulls, DeMar DeRozan is playing like Kobe personified right now. The Cavs, Darius Garland is a dog. Jared Allen's a dog. The Bucks, we already know about them. The 76ers, I mean, they might on paper, depending on if you get like Houston Harden or you get Fat Suit Harden, hard to say which one. But I mean, if Harden hoops like he did in Houston, that's the best duo in the league. You still got Brooklyn as a dark horse, and compared to seeing what happens with Ben Simmons and if Kyrie, stops playing part-time. It's gonna be a bloodbath, dude. I'm really curious about the East. I think the East is a lot more compelling than the West this year.
Oh yeah, way more. And to make things even more interesting, the Celtics have picked up their play lately. Toronto Raptors playing like their starters every minute possible of the game are now 7 games above 500. They're going to be real annoying for somebody. Gary Trent Jr. is damn near looking like a star player. Pascal Siakam. Yeah, right. Pascal Siakam is looking like 2019 Finals Pascal Siakam. Fred VanVleet, Father Fred, and then you add Scotty Barnes onto that. Raptors going to be annoying to somebody, and then the Atlanta Hawks had also improved because they've been able to get healthy. They got DeAndre Hunter, so they've been a little bit back and forth as of late, but they're better than they were when they started the season. This just gets really, you have 10 playoff teams as I'm looking at the standings right here, because even the Hornets, although they're not that good to me, still a playoff team. I think they probably get squeezed out of this bracket when it really comes down to it. They've had a rough stretch playing good teams that they're gonna, they would have to beat to make me feel some type of way this whole week, or like the last week and a half. So no, not too high on them, but damn, the East, look out for it, y'all. That is, at worst, Cleveland ends up a 5th seed, and your top 4 is Sixers, Bucks, Chicago, Miami, and those playoffs, as long as we don't get sent to a bubble or something like that, are just going to be absolutely incredible.
It's going to be a whole bunch of game 6s and game 7s throughout the whole playoffs bracket.
Bruh, man, I cannot wait. We need to go ahead and fast forward a couple of months here.
Right now, who you got coming out the East?
Who do I have coming out the East right now? I mean, obviously it's hard to say because I need to see this entire Harden and Embiid dynamic. I can still say Nets fans gonna be mad. Nets fans were already mad at me, and then look where they are, AC. But anyways, yeah, with their in and out situation, I can still stay kind of low on them. I would still stick with Milwaukee right now. I would still stick with Milwaukee as my pick. They're 4th seed. I am high on Miami, but I am interested to see when they get into the playoffs. I don't know. It just feels like Tyler Hero is a big part of that offense. Then Jimmy Butler, he can go off like he did in the finals at one time, but is it going to be enough for them to, because there's still that feeling when I look at the Miami Heat, there's still that feeling of wanting to see that guy, like how Nets have KD, Bucks have Giannis, Sixers have Embiid. Miami to go through a full bracket and then to win the championship. Don't get me wrong, finals contenders for sure, but I do wonder with the offense and how it works in the playoffs, are they going to be able to beat certain squads? So I'm sticking with Milwaukee for the moment. I also do have a bit of a head scratcher there because Brook Lopez was important to that rim protection, and that man has been in the win since game 1 of this season. They've been fine without him.
They did just add Serge Ibaka though at the trade deadline too.
They did, but I gotta see, man. And we're gonna get to that trade, but I gotta see because Ibaka that name doesn't carry the weight that it did, even 2 years ago.
That's not 2012 Serge Ibaka.
It's not even 2020 Serge Ibaka right now is the thing. So, and they've been hunting for big men. Like they've been trying to find something because they let DeMarcus Cousins fill that role for a while. Then they were like, okay, Greg Monroe, it's your turn because he showed some flashes with the Timberwolves for a second out of the G League. So they're trying that now, and now it's Serge Ibaka. So they're clearly trying to rotate. I'm not confident in Brook Lopez, but I got the Bucks right now. Who would you have coming out of the East?
Again, like you said, it's hard to really say Nets or 76ers because their team just fundamentally changed because of this trade. So I got to at least see them play one time. So I got to say Milwaukee right now. I just think I already know what they are, and they're pretty damn good when they actually come together and play healthily. So got to say them. I feel the same way about the Heat. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but to me, the Heat are the Utah Jazz of the East.
Oh, explain that.
The conversation going to kill me, but hey, I got to say what I got. They gonna eat me up.
Speak your truth. What you mean?
But I just feel like that because you look at Utah, they're always good in the regular season, and they have all-stars, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and they got some great rotational pieces and other role players that play their role very well. But again, you got to have that guy, your KD, your LeBron, your Giannis type of dude. And as much as I love Jimmy Butler, he's not on that tier to be able to when they need him to really get a bucket or to make a play. As much as I love Jimmy Butler, I don't think he's just at that level to do that. So I really don't have any fear for the Heat. I think the Bulls, even as good as they've been, are kind of a dark horse to me because I don't know how well that's going to translate into the playoffs. But if DeRozan keeps playing like Kobe, then we're going to see. But I got to put my money on the Bucks. That's who I'm putting my money on if I got to throw some money on the play.
So what I've heard is you're calling the Miami Heat bubble frauds.
Man, I don't even want to even do that because I'm a Laker fan and people already been calling Mickey Mouse's ring not a real one, and so me putting Heat slander out there is basically me illegitimizing our ring in 2020. But I just don't look at them as even the third best team in the East. Like I don't think they're better than Milwaukee or how good the 76ers and the Nets could be if healthy and all these pieces come together. So I mean, they're like in the same tier as the Bulls to me. Like really good teams that'll give you a hard 6-game series, but you're gonna beat them eventually. So they're not frauds, but they don't have the star power. So I'm just saying, Utah's a good team, Miami. Like if you can be the Utah of the East, that's not bad. They get to the playoffs.
It's bad.
They have a good season. I don't know.
It's bad, bro. It's bad. It's bad because Utah, their thing is like, yeah, they can win regular season games, but they just have very, very, very clear flaws when it comes to playoff basketball. Not just Gobert, but their perimeter defenders that end up putting Gobert in terrible positions and putting them in a place where they basically lose the same way every year. Miami, I'd give them, looking at the standings, I'd give them second before the trade deadline anyways. I give them second best team in the East. I go Bucks and I go Heat. Hell, the Bulls are right. The Bulls are there though. The Bulls are there. Like Bulls Heat would be a really good series. I'm not calling them Utah Jazz, which is interesting though, because 2 years ago I probably would have agreed with you. In 2020, the Jazz and Heat were both my dark horses for the finals that year. Before the bubble happened, they were both in my dark horse tier. So, yeah, I don't know. I moved off that. I think they're just a much deeper team now. Jimmy Butler, I agree. He's not in the tier of some of those players, but still, I don't want to call them the 04 Pistons at all. That's not the comparison where I'm going with, but there's just a lot of good players. The defense is good. The ball movement, once again, we'll see if that can survive in the playoffs. Yeah, I don't know. Damn, that's crazy. This man said the Miami Jazz. That's nuts.
The Miami Jazz. Utah Heat.
We'll see though. Hey, I've been told before I believe in the Miami Heat too much. But I don't know. This year specifically, I've just been impressed that job the exposure's done with them, and like how you said, they hadn't even been at full strength. I've been pretty high on them. They are not in the trade news though. We will move on to a deal that it's actually not on the list right here. I probably have to scroll down for it, but it's the second most popular one. So yeah, actually, let me scroll down so I have the full thing. It was when the Sacramento Kings dealt Tyrese Halliburton, the one player we didn't think they were going to deal. They did it. They dealt Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. The Kings, that's what the Pacers would get. The Kings got Domantas Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a 2023 second-round pick. That trade swept me off my damn feet. I'll let you go first because I don't know, we might touch some of the same points. And now Sabonis has had 2 games there as well, so obviously the temperature is changing, but I still have the things to say that I had to say when it happened. I knew I'd been on this podcast, by the way, just funny aside. For those of y'all who are regular listeners of the podcast, y'all know why this is funny. I've been talking about the Kings. I bring the Kings up frequently, and I was looking at the guard play between Mitchell, Fox, and Halliburton. Y'all know that I was wanting to see Halliburton off the Kings, but not necessarily this way. I didn't think it was going to happen like this. I thought it was going to be for something much bigger. And I also thought it would end up probably being Fox getting traded, but the Kings were not game with him. He's been back and he's been playing pretty well as well. Yeah, what did you think of this deal? And maybe, some of the play that's happened after it, because that one caught the whole internet by surprise.
Oh, dog. I remember as soon as I seen that trade, I text you immediately. I said, yo, trade season is in full swing. So, for one, this only goes to prove that the Kings are probably the most poorly run franchise in the NBA. Nothing positive has smoked out of Sacramento since 2001. So, at this point, I'm not even surprised. I even heard reports that other teams, after they heard about the trade, were mad because they didn't even call the Kings about Tyrese Halliburton because they just assumed he was untouchable. Because why would you get rid of your best piece for another piece, not picks? Like, if you're gonna get rid of a young player, like get picks or get something to win now. It's Sabonis. I mean, he's Sabonis. He's a good player. He's a fringe all-star level talent, but he's not really changing your fortunes if you're trying to win. I mean, what are the Kings even playing for right now? So I really don't understand what that trade was for. The only thing I could think would possibly make that even have made sense is if De'Aaron Fox and him didn't like each other and they just wanted to build around De'Aaron instead of Halliburton. But in my opinion, Halliburton's probably going to be better than De'Aaron Fox because when De'Aaron doesn't play, he's a dog. So, and he's only 21. I don't even... Like, the thing is, when we were talking about it when it first happened, I was trying to, justify it for the Kings. Like, well, Sabonis is really good, and, I mean, maybe they didn't know about Halliburton. But as I've sat and thought about it over, the last 2 days, I realized, wow, no, that's actually just a terrible trade in all ways. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, Kings, worst run franchise in the NBA still. They don't know how to run a franchise. I just don't get it. It makes no sense to me. But I know you got a lot to say on that, so I'll go ahead and let you talk.
Yeah, I'll start by saying it's not the first time the Kings just did something. Well, obviously, it's not the first time the Kings did something where it was just like, what the fuck? That's there's a reason they haven't been in the playoffs since I was in the 6th grade. Back when DeMarcus Cousins was there, I remember they fired Mike Malone, who was a coach that he liked, and they were off to a good start that season. But DeMarcus Cousins caught he contracted meningitis or something like that. I don't know if you can track meningitis, whatever. He had meningitis. He missed a bunch of games. The Kings lost, if not all of them, they lost most of them. And the Sacramento's front office used that as an excuse to say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and fire him. We found out it was because of style differences. They wanted to run the team a different way than he was doing anyways. But I remember at that time, it was like, man, the Kings can make the playoffs this year. DeMarcus Cousins is happy. That's your star player. Why would you fire that coach? So that was questionable as hell back then anyways. That was the most recent super questionable thing besides not drafting Luka Doncic, which who knows in hindsight. But anyways, so Sacramento trading Tyrese Halliburton. First of all, I do want to say we know what Sabonis is, or if you paid attention, you know what Sabonis is capable of. I would say specifically this year in Indiana, part of the reason he's gotten traded, they had not been using him the way that he could be. He has made an all-star team before. Sabonis is a good player. He's had 2 really good games, or he had one really, really good game with the Kings so far, and then a second good one, and they've won both. He does make them a better team now. Absolutely. There's things that he can do as a big man. He's a great passer, good finisher, not going to protect the rim, doesn't really move your defense, but Sabonis does help the Kings today. My issue with the trade was just pretty much what you said. Trading for Domantas Sabonis feels like a move that you make if you're a team that's on the brink. If you're 6th or 5th and you have a young player like Halliburton, you go, look, we're not really on this timeline. We don't have time to really wait for him to become what he looks like he can become. So you go, okay, cool. We're going to go ahead and trade this guy. We're going to get better now. When you're the Sacramento Kings, and the best that Sabonis is going to do for you this season is put you in the play-in, it's selling your best future asset is like, why? And so then you start to, and you look at it from a future perspective. I think the longest they might have Sabonis, if he does not resign, will be until around 2024. Halliburton on his rookie contract, you could have him for another 5 or 7 years, or a total of 7 years. So you keep him for a really long time. Sabonis, I don't know if he raises the I'm not sure how much of a floor raiser he is for a team that's as poorly run as Sacramento. Even though the West has been through shambles this year, okay, the Clippers get healthy next year. They're probably going to be back in the thick of things. Denver is going to be healthy. Memphis is going to be better. I don't know what's going on in LA right now. I guess we might touch on that at the end. The Pelicans will probably be healthy. I'm not sure. You're saying, okay, we got Sabonis, and then in the offseason, we're going to get even better, and all of a sudden, the Kings are a premier team in the West. If that happens, then I'll shut the fuck up. I'll be like, okay, cool. They got Sabonis. That made them a better team. They got somebody else that made them even better. Now they're somehow contending. I'll shut the fuck up if that happens. Knowing what happens to Sacramento, I just don't really see that being the move. And I get it. They wanted Sabonis. They really wanted him. They haven't had the playoffs, like we said, since 2006. So maybe there's an urge to get rid of that playoff drought. And it could happen this season. They very well could make the playoffs. And reiterating, Sabonis makes them a better team today for sure. He does great things for that squad. But is getting an 8th or 7th seed today to get dusted in the first round by one of those 2 top dogs in the West, and to be able to say, hey, we made the playoffs once, was that worth, getting rid of Halliburton, who you could have had, and then you could have probably found a deal out there for De'Aaron Fox, because that was the big thing. I know you don't want Fox, Davion Mitchell, and Halliburton trying to figure things out, because they never will. Guards, that many guards never, they don't fucking work. So I get it, and they're all their potential looks like they probably need space to grow into themselves. So, but did you really want to get rid of that instead of having that and then getting rid of Fox and saying, okay, we got Davion Mitchell who can grow now, you got Tyrese Halliburton, we got picks or whatever, and you can just kind of naturally grow and your team can really have some sustained success in the future, because that's basically the crux of what I'm saying. I don't think Sabonis is going to bring this franchise sustained success, and they really sold a house for probably an 8th seed. And I thought Sabonis to the Kings when I heard that talk, because that was talk I heard a month ago. I thought that made sense. I was like, oh, hell yeah. You put Sabonis on there with Tyrese Halliburton. You get Halliburton, the type of passer he is, and the type of passer Sabonis is, and the things that you can do with Sabonis in that high post area, the free throw line area. Yeah, that's fire. I didn't think it was going to be Sabonis for Halliburton. So that's where I stand with that one.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. I mean, when you're selling assets like that, like in the case of something like a Philadelphia, if you were to trade, Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle for a James Harden, that makes sense. You wouldn't want to do that, and obviously they didn't have to, so they didn't. But in that case, like, oh, we're winning now. We're taking advantage of a prime Joel Embiid as the third or fourth seed. I can't remember what seed they are in the East, but they're a high seed. They got a chance to come out the East. That makes sense. You're getting rid of a potential franchise cornerstone to move from the 9th seed to the 8th seed. Really? Come on. I don't know. If in a way, I'm actually kind of glad, because I just hate seeing talent get wasted. I'm from the University of Kentucky, and I actually went to school with De'Aaron Fox. I got a funny story about De'Aaron. I'll tell you offline. It's not for the air, but he's a cool dude, and he plays for a terrible organization. I mean, they had Luke Walton for 2 seasons, and they just thought that was actually a good move. So any team that let Luke Walton coach for more than 1 season is automatically on my shit list. So RIP. Tyrese is not the way you wanted to get dumped, but you're gonna be able to find a much healthier relationship outside of them. So you're good, bro.
How did you think the Pacers came out of this? This is a rebuilding squad. They were able to retain. After that, they went ahead and retained Miles Turner, because I think Miles was actually happy to be. He knows what Halliburton does in the pick and roll as far as working with bigs, so he was happy with that. And Sabonis is out of there, so he can play his natural position. You get Buddy Hield too, who I actually thought they were going to move, but okay, now you bring him off the bench, I believe. Anyways, you Halliburton there, Tristan Thompson. I liked it for Indiana, for a team that wanted to rebuild. Malcolm Brogdon isn't even there right now. I would assume you've probably committed to Halliburton. Eventually, Brogdon is going to be a trade piece as well. And Indy just gets to restart here. They were able to nab Jalen Smith too. I'm not sure how much you know about Sticks, but for the Suns, for the limited run that he got with the Suns this year, I actually thought he showed some good potential. He was playing with Chris Paul, but that's the thing. If you put a big man out there with Chris Paul, he's got to be able to do something, because all he got to be able to do is roll competently and set screens and make some basic reads. So there is that. But I liked how Indy came out of this for a team that wanted to rebuild. They weren't out going to use Sabonis how he needed to be used. So you start with Halliburton and go from there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the Pacers were in what I call the NBA purgatory of being too good to miss the playoffs, but not being good enough to win anything outside of maybe a first round matchup. So when you're stuck in that purgatory, there's no real point in just keep churning the wheel and getting the 6th seed and losing in 5 games in the second round. And they got a really talented piece. I don't know what you think Halliburton's ceiling is, but I think he could easily be like an all-star type guard, putting up like 24 and 8 as a starting point guard for somebody's team, and they build around him the right way. I guess Malcolm Brogdon probably get traded. Miles Turner. I guess Miles a little upset because LA he could have snagged that dinner with old girl. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh man,
that's another off-air one. But anyway, but hey, I like Indiana. I still don't think they're ready to be a contending team, obviously, but I think as Tyrese Halliburton grows, they probably get more picks. They'll probably do some more dealing over the offseason and next year, and we'll see what happens with them. Again, I'm from Kentucky. We don't have an NBA team, so the only games I ever saw in person before I moved to Texas was Indiana Pacer games. I watched the Heat play when they had the Big Three. I watched Kobe play the Pacers in his farewell season, and then I watched one other game. I can't even remember. Like, those are the only 3 NBA games I ever went in person. So I'm not a Pacer fan, but I got memories for the Pacers in the Paul George era and all that. So we're gonna see what happens with them. I hope they become a good team. And Halliburton is in a much better place, in my opinion, than he is being in Sacramento. So he got out on the right side of this trade. So we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, your purgatory comment really encapsulates why the Kings move baffled me. It's because Sabonis doesn't really, unless you have some come in this offseason, which they never do, it doesn't move you any closer to getting out of purgatory. And the Kings actually weren't really even in purgatory. They were like below purgatory. They were just drafting wrong until they drafted Halliburton, was the thing. That was pretty much their best pick in forever. So now I guess the bonus kind of puts them into purgatory, and trading Halliburton for that's questionable. No, you're asking me what I think his ceiling is. I mean, the thing is, if you look at his shooting numbers, it's just ridiculous. The improvement already from one season to the other, being able to shoot off the dribble. If you look at what he does as a distributor, like you said, when De'Aaron Fox isn't there, like clearly there is a very high ceiling for a player like him. And I guess that, people wanted to be cynical about it because there were so many questions about this trade. I saw a lot of talk on Twitter of, oh, they're talking about Halliburton like he's the next coming to MJ. It's like, no, if you just paid attention to what he was doing in this role, in this budding role, a team like the Kings is exactly what they needed. So Pacers got one there. It's going to be able to grow. Doesn't have to share it with De'Aaron Fox. That was my main thing always, because watching Kings basketball, which I guess I don't necessarily have to do a whole lot anymore, but I still watch the ball when it's out there. It was always Halliburton and Fox. That one, eventually they're going to have to choose, and they chose. They had De'Aaron Fox, so we will see how that works out for them. And indeed, the rebuild starts now with Halliburton. Not a sentence I thought I would be saying. Oh, and yeah, the Kings, by the way, underrated part of that, just to end it. Justin Holiday was a solid pickup for them too. 3-and-D guy, so definitely a solid pickup there. But we'll see what ends up happening in the play-in, because that was really important to Sacramento. So I hope they get what they want.
They really want to lose the play-in game by 3 points instead of by 30.
They really want one of those end seeds, man. So hey, this one caught me off guard, bruh. The Mavericks send Porzingis to the Wizards. They get Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. The Wizards get Kristaps Porzingis and a 2022 second-round pick. Now, I fully understand Kristaps is not that good anymore, and Mavericks have been waiting for him to come around and be the number 2 for Luka. Kind of came apparent that wasn't going to happen. But damn, was this the market? It was Spencer Dinwiddie, what's left of Spencer Dinwiddie anyways, for Kristaps Porzingis, essentially. And Davis Bertans is not as good of a stretch big as 2K would have you believe. So that one caught me super off guard. I was like, bruh.
Bro, I double take when I seen that. So I figured, so you trade, because I mean, he wasn't great, but Porzingis was having a pretty decent season when he played. It wasn't shooting that well from 3, but I mean, Spencer, I like to call Spencer done with it, not Dinwiddie, because dude is garbage now. And what's crazy is when he got traded to the Wizards, I was thinking, man, people are sleeping on that, because when he played, I remember when he still played with D'Lo, and when D'Lo was injured, he was playing all-star level basketball. He played well when Kyrie didn't play last year. So I was thinking, you know what, this is probably a really good pickup for them, and he's going to be a solid guard backcourt with Bradley Beal. And he has gone on to lay an absolute egg. And Davis Bertans has been poopity-whoopity scoop. He takes terrible threes. He's like taking off the dribble threes from 5 feet behind the line and missing about 70% of them. And you trade Porzingis for that. If anything, I just want to go ahead and dap up Mark Cuban for his commitment to Dirk Nowitzki by making sure that no Mav has more rings than him. Because I don't know what else he's trying to do with this. It makes no sense. He's been playing around with the NFTs too long. He hasn't actually been watching the Wizards play, and he has no idea what he traded for. So the only reason this trade would make any sense at all, and even still, I would push back. But, you know, it's a Stars League. But if Luka Doncic didn't like playing with Porzingis, I guess he had to be gone. But he's on contract for like the next 4 years, I think. He just signed extension, and this is the best you can get. I would literally say, Luka, I know you're Luka Don Magic. I got you all this, but dude, we're literally trading the second best player on this team right now for who? That just doesn't make any sense. So,
well, luckily, yeah, go ahead.
Good. Oh no, no, you could. I'm done.
Yeah, luckily for them, for having seen the Mavericks this year, I think they held on to their second best player. So they did not trade Jalen Brunson. That's who I thought, if they were gonna get better, that they would have to trade. And apparently I was right. He's probably been their second best guy this year. Thought they were gonna, if they wanted to raise their ceiling, they would probably end up moving Brunson for, I don't know what the deal would have been, but Porzingis is like, the Mavericks had, I don't know right now if it's the same, but they've had a top defense this year, and I know Porzingis is important to their rim protection, so to get rid of him just for Spencer Dinwiddie was like, it felt like they just wanted to kind of get rid of the contract and say, hey, he's not going to get any better. Maybe they wanted to get off of him before he like really declined.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but they didn't even really get better in terms of contract flexibility, because Spencer Dinwiddie's on a 3-year deal. I think Bertans is signed until 2025. Like, you would have got off Porzingis in 24. You're locked in with matching salaries for 2 worst players for the same amount of time and longer. So that it doesn't make sense contractually. It doesn't make sense fit wise. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense at all unless Mark Cuban doesn't want the Mavericks to be good. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
There you go. I was trying to give them a little bit of leeway. I was trying to find something to where because that when I walked in my family's crib and I saw that on the TV, and I was like, damn. First of all, I didn't know they were really looking to move him. And if the Mavericks made a move, I thought it was going to be a go for it move, not a lateral one. So if not moving them back, we'll see.
That was he's really impressed with Sam Hinkie's tanking strategy, and I think he's really trying to live that. So congratulations, Dallas Mavericks.
Man, I just hope this doesn't turn into a situation in a couple of years where Luka's, like, because remember, Porzingis was he wasn't on Luka's level, but he was a super prospect for the Knicks, and then all of a sudden he was just gone. He did tear his ACL, so it was different. But for Luka on the Mavs, what are we in now? Are we season 3 or season 4 for Doncic right now? And it's kind of becoming, man, this roster doesn't ever really change much or ever get a whole lot better, and none of the moves are really inspiring confidence. So take that for what you will. I don't really know what the future holds for Dallas, but the trade deadline to me did not do much for them. Trade deadline might have done something for the Pelicans. This is fascinating. So this is where the Blazers finally said, we are not going to pretend that CJ and Dame are ever going to do anything interesting together besides both average 25 or something like that, or 23, whatever, and be the Bucket brothers. They finally split that up. Part of me believes they're trying to get Dame to break up with them. They just don't want to. I don't know why that would make sense, because you could just trade a guy. You don't have to make somebody break up with you. But with the move that they made, they traded CJ McCollum and Larry Nance Jr. So we'll see if he's healthy. And Tony Snell to the Pelicans in exchange for Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was already traded, Thomas Satoransky, who also was traded already, Didi Louzada. I ain't gonna lie to you, I don't know if I pronounced that right, because I really heard the name. They got a 2022 first round protected pick, 26 second round pick, whichever is better between the teams, 27 second round pick, whichever is better between the teams. How do you feel about Portland way behind schedule finally giving one of the two Bucket brothers in Portland the boot?
So I gotta say, it wasn't for the Kings and the Mavericks doing some absolute zero IQ, like Russell Westbrook 3 from 10 feet behind the line level of dealery and fuckery, I would say that the Portland Trailblazers are an enigma to me, and the worst traders of this entire trade deadline. There are people who lost more because they didn't trade at all, but other people who did, theirs makes no sense to me. Because at first, okay, you get rid of CJ, you give up Norman Powell for nothing. So now I'm thinking, you're tanking, you're trying to clean up house, you're trying to get picks, you're just setting yourself up for the future. But then they say, no, we're actually trying to clear up cap space and get a trade level exception and this and this and this, so we can rebuild around Dame. And then I think, well, you do know you're Portland, right? Nobody's going to come there, right? So what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. I get it. Like, they were never going to win anything with CJ. But to me, if you're going to start cleaning up house, you got to clean the whole thing. It's like saying I got a dirty house and I'm only going to clean the kitchen, but I'm going to leave my room a mess. Like, what was the point? What was even the point of doing that? Like, go all in or don't do it at all, because acting like you're going to rebuild around Dame. And I partially think they're just lying to the public and they're actually going to deal Dame at some point. But I have no idea what they're doing. I think for the Pelicans, it's a great deal. They get another, shot creator to go alongside Brandon Ingram. I don't know how that's going to work, because Brandon Ingram's pretty ball dominant. And who knows about Zion these days? I don't even know what to say about that. But, you had another guard who can, give you another 20 points off the dribble, facilitate a little bit. I think he's a little overpaid. I don't know how that's going to look for their cap, but for Portland, it makes no sense. Josh Hart's cool. Oh, and also Larry Nance. I think Larry Nance is even a better fit for the Pelicans than CJ is. But I don't even know what Portland's doing, to be honest. Portland, outside of the Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings, blew my mind more than any other team this trade deadline, because it makes no sense.
So out of everything that didn't make sense, I like the Josh Hart piece. I think he's had an underrated season in New Orleans because nobody really cares about the Pelicans. That's a nice piece for them. It's just pretty much like you said, the fact that they were just, a season ago or whenever they did that deal to get Norman Powell, and that involved Gary Trent Jr., who's now absolutely hooping. It's just this what do you call it? The sequence of events there to end up where you ended up, which is, man, you did that trade, then you did this one, and you got rid of it for what exactly? So Blazers, it's just a long line of incompetence, because the rebuild should have started a long time ago. Now you're calling it a retool around Damian Lillard. Okay, for this to make sense, you're right. Somebody got to come there this summer, because you've now opened up money. But like you said, it's Portland, and I don't know who's going up there, because especially when you see the incompetence of the front office, they have changed change management, so maybe you say, okay, they're cleaning up old management's a mess, but I don't know what star wants to see what's happened there in the last 9 years, basically, and go there, because it can maybe end up getting stagnant real quick. So for these things to make sense, yeah, they gotta chop this summer. Somebody gotta come play with Dame, or you should probably trade Dame, because you're gonna come out with a rebuilding roster with Dame on top of it next year, which makes even less sense than what you had. Also, Anthony Simons clearly wants to score, clearly wants to develop. You clear CJ away, so that helps. Don't want to watch Dame and CJ part 2 with Dame and Anthony Simons. Don't think that makes any sense. I don't know how high Simons can get as a player. I don't know if you could just make an entire rebuild depend on him, but he's a nice rebuild piece at the least. And so you could let him blossom. You can still get something good for Dame. That's the big thing, right? Just get something for Dame while you can. But they're pretty adamant about not trading him, so I don't really spend a whole lot of time talking about that these days. The Pelicans, however, I like the move. I thought that coming up to it, it was kind of a similar, not really a similar situation, but it was related. You can draw a comparison where the Kings ended up having to get rid of a young player. I kind of thought the Pelicans were going to have to get rid of their rookie Herb Jones to get CJ McCollum, which now I look back at it, yeah, that would have been a little bit interesting. It's a great defensive rookie, probably has some offensive development coming along the way. Not sure you want to do that for CJ, who once again maybe doesn't raise you that high. But for where that team is, yeah, no. So you keep Herb, you got rid of Josh Hart, you get Brandon Ingram some more space. When Zion, if he ever comes back, I think next year it definitely makes them a playoff team if you're able to get it. See, that's hard to say. That's where it's just like with the Sixers right now. This is why it's hard to say, because man, who knows what Zion we're gonna get back. He's now missed a year of basketball, so he's gonna, by that point, he'll have missed a year of basketball. But if you got CJ, Brandon Ingram, Zion, you hang on to JV, you still got Devontae Graham, you got Herb Jones. I can see where they're moving in the right direction. And once you get CJ McCollum acclimated into there as well, I do like the move for them, and I don't think that they paid too high for it. And it's got, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I again don't know what people know about the Pelicans, how many people watch them. I'm not super high on him, and he ended up getting traded anyway, so the Blazers weren't really high on him either. But yeah, I like the move for the Pelicans. What are you gonna say?
I don't like him. He's a shot chucker. Every time I see him get in the game, he's gonna put up at least 5 shots in the first 3 minutes.
I was trying to tell people, I was like, bro, he almost sold a game because he got a rebound, and all he had to do was run the clock, and he instantly tried to put that shit back up like some broken NBA 2K sim gameplay. It was wild, but whatever. We'll move on to another deal now, because it turns out talking about the Blazers actually hurts my head. We just so for the listeners, we're not going to go through every single deal that ended up happening, pretty much the most important ones. I thought an important one was the Cleveland Cavaliers acquiring Caris LeVert. So Pacers, they traded 2 of the 3 people that was their goal all along. Caris LeVert, the Cavaliers received him, a 2022 second-round pick via Miami. The Pacers get Ricky Rubio, who probably will never play a game for them, and a 2022 first-round draft pick that's lotto-protected, 22 second-round pick via Houston, 22 second-round pick via Utah. I like the move for the Cavaliers. I really like the move for the Cavaliers. The other night, Caris LeVert absolutely went off in Indiana, basically put them away. It looked personal, but I thought he probably didn't want to be there anyway since they were going to rebuild. So I thought they did a favor by trading him, but I don't know. There was a lot of anger in those fadeaways. Either way, big move for the Cavaliers for a team that was already this high. You essentially got rid of. Maybe you look at the amount of picks they gave up and not scratch your head, and you look and maybe that hurts, but that's also just if you want to acquire something, you got to trade something. And for a team that was doing really well, and Ricky Rubio was a big part of that, now you replace him with a guy who comes in, brings scoring. He comes in with the second unit. I think he takes a lot of pressure off of Darius Garland. I like the move for the Cavaliers. This is just they've been beating ass this year, bro. Now you got Kevin Love maybe winning a 6-man award too. I like what they did there.
I like Caris LeVert. I've always been a big Caris LeVert fan since I started watching him in Brooklyn. I think given that where the Cavs stand right now as I guess, do you call them a contender? They're a top team in the East. I don't know if contender is a strong word. Contender is a strong word, but they're up there, and I think they're trying to optimize around having as good of a chance to compete in the playoffs as possible. I think Caris LeVert definitely helps them with that. Helps, with some of the scoring pressure off of Darius Garland since Colin Sexton's still hurt. I like the move. They didn't really give up too much. I think Ricky Rubio, he was hurt. He's hurt, but I think he's still hurt, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He tore his ACL. He's not gonna. As far as I know, his contract is about to be up. I think so. I don't think he'll ever play for the Pacers.
Yeah. So I mean, they only traded. They lose a first-round pick and 2 second rounds. I'm not too worried about the second-round picks. For every Jokic and Draymond Green, there's a whole bunch of guys you never hear of. So I'm not worried about those. So I think it's a good move. I like what Cleveland's doing. and Karis LeVert is still relatively young. I do not know how old he is, like 27, 28. So he's somebody that can definitely grow around, and I think he slots in well in that 3 spot whenever Colin Sexton comes back. So we're going to see. We're going to see. I like it. It's a good move for both teams.
Right. As we start to wrap up some of the trade talking, and we'll just kind of generally look around the NBA before we end the podcast. Montrez Hero did get dealt. That one went under the radar. He goes to the Hornets, who I thought it was a good move because I definitely think big men having a big man there is really important for them. It's ironic how badly they really needed Bismack Biyombo pretty much, and now he's hooping in Phoenix. But they're settled for Montrez Hero. Damn, settling from Bismack Biyombo to Montrez Hero. I've really said that in 2022, but the man has been earning his money, bro. He earned his spot. They got that for Vernon Carey, Ish Smith, and a 23 second round pick. It's Boston's pick via Charlotte, so up for Charlotte for getting that done. The Celtics moved on from Dennis Schroeder, who's going to enter the buyout market, so he might end up right back with the Lakers. Got rid of Enes Freedom. He is out of here, packed him up. The Rockets also waived him, so I don't know if he's going to be playing in the NBA anymore. The Celtics ended up getting... All right, his worst nightmare. The Celtics.
Here we come.
Derek White goes to Boston. I like that move. Good defensive guard. I always liked him for San Antonio. They got rid of Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, 2022 2022 first round pick, and a 2028 first round pick swap. So that's what happens with the Boston Celtics. I think the last deal that I would really have wanted to make a mention of on here, because Dragic finally got dealt from the Raptors. That's cool. Celtics got rid of Bobo and PJ Dozier, two injured players. That was a little small deal. Last one I'll really mention is just that Bucks that we talked about. Bucks getting Ibaka. It was a 4-team trade. Ibaka went to the Bucks. They also got a 2nd round pick. They got 2 2nd round picks and cash considerations. The Clippers got Rodney Hood and Semi Ojeleye. The Kings got Dante DiVincenzo. So Milwaukee's done with him. He rehabbed. He made it back to the lineup. Excuse me. And he's out of here. Josh Jackson, Trey Lyles. God, the Kings got a lot of players back from this. David, I don't even know how to say his last name, and a 2nd round pick. Oh yeah, Marvin Bagley is a Piston, by the way. Have you given up all the way on Marvin Bagley?
Who?
Oh no!
I know his dad's definitely gonna be taking some extra shots for Super Bowl Sunday because he's been trying to get Marvin out of Sacramento for the longest. So I don't know. He didn't get a lot of opportunity, so it's hard to really say. I mean, he's still probably gonna be playing behind Jeremy Grant. So I mean, we're gonna see what happens there. But I don't know. I really don't have any thoughts on Marvin Bagley. I didn't really think he was all that great when he got drafted anyway, and I definitely think they messed up not getting Luka. But they're the Kings, so of course they didn't. So I don't know. We're gonna see, but yeah, he's out of Sacramento. At this point, not being in Sacramento is probably the best thing that can happen for anybody's career. So.
I don't know though. When you get sent to Detroit, I don't know if it's a whole lot better.
Good point.
I don't know if that's a whole lot better, but hey, who knows? You get there, you play with Cade Cunningham, maybe things will end up turning around. I don't know, but finally that's over in Sacramento. They got their wish. Him and his family got their wish. We'll see what happens in Detroit. And like I said, Ibaka just totally depends. He that name does not carry the weight it did. If this is 2020 Ibaka, that'd be huge for the Milwaukee. Now let's see. That move to me also signals maybe they're really losing confidence in getting Brook Lopez back, and they're really hoping that Ibaka can provide some of those qualities in terms of stretching the floor and maybe some rim protection. But again, in this day and age, I really don't know. So that's pretty much the trade news as we start to wrap up here. You're the resident Lakers fan. I brought a Nuggets fan on last. You're the Lakers fan. I think it is time to do our little check-in, because last time we talked, things really weren't much better than they are now. The only difference is you didn't make any trades. You could not get anyone interested in Talen Horton-Tucker or Kent Bazemore or Russell Westbrook or DeAndre Jordan or any fucking body on that roster.
We get it. They don't want what we got. All right, I know. We got it. Get to the point.
Oh man, but so 26-31 now, falling pretty solidly under 500. Just got Anthony Davis back probably about a week and a half ago. He's playing some great basketball. You get LeBron James back. Didn't know how long he was going to be back, or I didn't know how long he was going to be out, because I didn't like the things I was hearing about a second his knee, but he's all good. Apparently, lose to the Warriors last night, lose to the Blazers before that. Russell Westbrook's getting benched, clearly getting angry. Some of his comments to me have some pettiness behind them. I heard his voice crack in a press conference, which made me just feel awful, because I really thought the best thing in the world could have been for him to not be playing in LA by the time this was all over, but I didn't see a way that could happen. I had a whole podcast segment about that. But I'm not the Lakers fan here. how do you feel about the Los Angeles Lakers on February 13th? Are they breaking your heart a day before Valentine's Day?
You know, Dom, I would say they're breaking my heart. I really would. But in a way, my heart was broken in July when they traded for Russell Westbrook. And I just didn't know it until now. Because I knew we weren't going to be good. And I knew we were trading all of our flexibility with contracts. And I knew we didn't have any tradable assets if we didn't want Russell Westbrook. And I knew he had an untradeable contract unless he wanted John Wall in the year 2022. But there was just this tiny little bit of hope way back in my jaded, cynical, ice cold heart that said, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, after we play 54 games, the 55th game, Russell Westbrook is just going to get it. Or Russell Westbrook will get injured and it's just the LeBron and AD show again. And I'm not wishing any ill will or something. I just didn't want him to be there, or I wanted him to be good. And being good is a stretch for Russell Westbrook. So the second one was the best option. But the moment it sank into me and I realized we're screwed no matter what is when the Los Angeles Lakers in broad day in 4K Ultra HD went to Portland with no Dame, no CJ, no Norman Powell, and lost the LeBron and AD playing with no Westbrook. And as that game ended, I just thought, why do I even care? So I don't anymore. I just don't. Whatever. Screw it. We can make it the play. We could be the 15th seed in the West. I don't care anymore. I have no feeling. Like, I'm just numb.
Oh man. It's getting particularly bad because I'm not gonna quote things that come off of Twitter, especially with ball sack sports around these days, because you don't even know like what you see is real. But there was one floating around about like, oh, a Lakers executive has said that can't be real. That sounds like a ball sack quote, bro. So did you see that one about, I think it came from Kendrick Perkins saying that, as a matter of fact, it was Kendrick, so probably as credible as ball sack sports, but said that oh yeah, Lakers executive said something about we're right where we want to be. We want to play the Suns in the first round. Had you seen that?
That's the most anime. I knew this was gonna happen. I planned for it the whole time. As in my life, get that bullshit back in the bullshit wrapper you put it in, and throw that shit out in the kitchen sink. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. That's just so stupid. That's the dumbest.
Well.
Set me off, bro. No, you suck. It's what it is. It's over. There's nothing to talk about anymore. It's a non-starter. It's not even worth talking about on the podcast.
Yeah, honestly, it's really not. And what happens now is it's starting to become a thing where you just start to talk about the future, because this season
we have Russell Westbrook for the next 2 years. LeBron is about to be 40.
Well, it's just next season, right? It's just next season. It's this season and next season you have Russ.
He's got a player option. I know he's accepting $47 million. So, but then okay,
damn.
LeBron's gonna be in year 21, and it's gonna be the end of his contract, and he's going wherever Bronny's going. Anthony Davis. I don't even want to do this. This is traumatic for me.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah,
we're so pitiful that we didn't even want to trade a 2027 first round pick. That's all we've got. That's the only pick we have for the next 5 years, a 2027 first round pick, Dom.
Ooh. That's why I wanted to have a conversation about the future, because at this point, the Lakers just, even when they're on the floor healthy, there's so many things that happen that are bad defensively. Shout out to people on the Twitterverse about a month and a half ago that were trying to stress to me they were a top defense, and I was telling y'all to watch the motherfucking games because there was so many things wrong with that. That's like, this is not, I think it was actually the pod you were on. I was like, this is not no goddamn top 10 defense. I don't care what the defensive rating says.
I already made a joke about guarding a parked car with an AR-15. We can't. I feel like me and you could go out there and get 15 points off.
The great thing is, I'm pretty sure they're not even playing DJ anymore finally, which I don't know why they were doing that anyways. But anyways, yeah, this season doesn't matter because at this point you get 8th or 7th seed, play healthy Warriors, healthy Suns, you're probably getting beat. Draymond wouldn't even play on last night. Warriors were able to pull that game off in the last couple of minutes. So what ends up happening here is the future, like you said. Russell Westbrook in that money. I'm not sure, just the way things look for him right now. Morally, I'm not even I mean, I can't think of many things that ain't worth 47 million. I can't be real. I gotta be real. But also, yeah, I don't know, does he really want to play in LA again next year? But for 47 million, yeah, whatever, he'll probably take the booze. And then like you said, LeBron starting to look, I really think his eyes are starting to look for after LA life. He's been there since 2019 now. He won a championship. The roster has very few ways to get better from where it is right now because they sold the whole boat in after 2020 or after last year. They sold that whole boat. And Bronny, the thing about Bronny, because it is a valid question of is he even good enough to get drafted? Look, he's LeBron's son, all right? He can end up on a team because LeBron will probably still be good. And they're like, oh, wait, LeBron is going to come here if we get Bronny? All right, let him come play.
Really a twin pack of deodorant, so buy one, get one free deal. Bronny will go in the first round just because they know they're getting the
That man said a 2-pack of deodorant.
Like how Harvard puts in dumb kids with rich parents because they know their parents will donate to the school if they let their kid in. It's literally the same exact thing. So it's
man.
over.
Whether
unibrow, and that's fine, I guess. Whatever. Who cares? Anthony Davis. Who else we got? Austin Reeves are gonna be our big three in 2020.
Oh man, yeah.
I can't wait.
Oh, this is great. All the Austin Reeves breakdowns of how, I ain't gonna say nothing because fuck around in a couple of years, all this stuff comes true and it actually turns out, well, I'm not gonna put anything out here that's gonna age. But I feel for y'all, man. I feel for y'all because Boston is actually looking up these days. I like the trades that we made. Looks like we may be able to escape the play-in. So stay safe though. That's tough. We look at it's starting to wrap up here. How high? Because I don't know how much of a thing the Memphis Grizzlies were when I had you on the podcast, but how high can they go in this year? How far can they go in this year's playoffs? They are 2.5 games behind the Golden State Warriors. Been healthy. Ja Morant's been fantastic. Desmond Bane, same thing. This team is growing right before our eyes. I think they are very clearly a second round team. Like they can make it to the second round, but can they fuck around and upset one of those teams? Get a conference finals berth this year.
I think they're the third seed right now, so they be playing the Nuggets or Timberwolves more than likely. So I think they're definitely gonna get out the first round. After that, I mean, it's one of those situations where you're a really good team, but you're not a great team. And the West, you probably sneak away with some wins because I think the West is honestly a pretty piss poor conference right now outside of Golden State and Phoenix. I don't look at any of these teams as contenders except for those two. So maybe they could. I like Ja, and I actually went on record. I have another podcast I do with my friend, and I remember I think we did a podcast before the 2019 draft, and I said Ja Morant is going to be better than Zion. They laughed. They mocked me. They said I was biased. Actually, Ja Morant went to Murray State, which is a Kentucky school that I almost went to because my dad's an alma mater there, and I have been a fan of his since college. And I said that, and look at me, the Oracle. Nostra bucket. I caught. So I root for him. I love Ja Morant. He's one of my favorite players, and I think when Steph Curry retires, he'll probably end up being the best point guard in the NBA. So we're gonna see. But I don't know. I got them second round exit in like a tough 6-game series.
To wrap it up, who do you think is gonna finish the MVP? It's because it's an interesting race that's flip-flopped all over the place. Kevin Durant is basically out now since he's been gone for so long. Steph Curry is still 5th. I'm not gonna lie, that kind of shocked me. But Curry's still 5th, so if he ends up hitting a hot streak in the next week or something and rides that, maybe he can get back to the top. I don't know. But Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, pretty solidly the top 3. They're trying to sneak Chris Paul in there as the Steve Nash MVP, which I just don't think can happen with 3 players doing as much as Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic. No. But who you think will end up? You said nah.
I mean, I would like it. 19 assists the other day, and they beat the Bucks by like 30. So, I mean, it's definitely worth considering. But it's like the Chris Paul argument that people have been making since like 2009. He's always the best player on a really good team record-wise, but his numbers are never there. As simple as it's a numbers game in a lot of ways. So, I think, God, it's so hard because you could go either way on Giannis, Joel Embiid, or Jokic. I really think it all comes down like what happens these last 2 months of the season and who moves up, who puts up big numbers. I think I'm leaning on it being Joel Embiid just off the fact the other two have won MVPs already, and I think people just want to see new people win. So also I want Joel Embiid to win too, because I just I like seeing new players win it. I don't like seeing the same old people win it. The LeBron fatigue effect. So I'm leaning towards Embiid, but I could see it being Jokic as well because he's just a monster down in Denver. Their record's too low though, so
yeah,
I'm gonna go on record and say Embiid right now. But you could literally go either way. It changes every other day for me.
For sure. And it's going to have a lot to do with the standings and how that winds up. Look at the 76ers and Bucks, because Giannis is still solidly in that conversation. It could be a game separating them, and the Bucks could be first and the Sixers could be fifth. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays into it. Also, now that the Sixers have Harden, and I wonder if there'll be an adjustment period. Does that knock Embiid's numbers down some and make it easier for Giannis or Jokic to pull ahead? But it could very well work that they mesh quickly. They end up at the top, because if the Sixers ended up first seed after the things that have happened this season and having to play with no Ben Simmons this entire time, that would make Embiid's case pretty strong, especially because it's very hard to repeat as MVP.
Right, he's got the narrative, and then the other two have also already won, so it's a lot harder to repeat than it is to win the first time. So I think he's got the narrative. He's got a better record than the Nuggets. I think do they have a better record than the Bucks too? I know, basically like the same record, 34 versus 35 wins. So I would give it to Joel Embiid. If I had to put my somebody, I'm leaning Embiid.
Right. All right, then. Well, that'll pretty much wrap up this episode, man. Talked about some trades, pretty active trade deadline. Definitely shifting the NBA landscape a bit. That can happen overnight, and it pretty much has. This already came into this season and said by the end of it, Harden would be a Sixer. There's no way anybody would have believed you. That was not in any set of cards in the offseason, and now here it is. And Simmons has found a home. Kings going all in for the play-in. Gotta respect it. Pacers rebuilding. Celtics getting rid of Bobo. Gotta find a Bobo Celtics jersey now, because I gotta imagine that's going for something. It's like the Zydrunas Ilgauskas, what was it, Washington Wizards jersey from way back in the day. Y'all know about that one. Either way, man, look, I will be praying for you and the Lakers and y'all future, because it looks like it's about to be that dash deal in a couple of years. LeBron will be out of there. Y'all will have absolutely nothing to build and work with. But like I said, man, hoping the best for y'all, praying for y'all. Stay safe. Say what?
We appreciate the good wishes, Dom. Thank you.
Oh yeah, and you could at the end, say whatever you got to say to the people, and also you can plug your podcast that you do with your friend too, because I don't think you said a name.
Yeah, we haven't done it in a while, so plug it. My guy Kendall, I think he's probably gonna listen to this too. But my guy Kendall works at ESPN, doing some dope stuff there.
Oh, nice.
Podcast called Trey Ball. We ain't done it in a while, so now we getting shout outs. We don't have to get some clicks. We don't have to get some content out there. But last thing I want to say, just Laker fans out there, if you hear me, just know you're in my prayers. We get through this together. We have to be one solid unit in solidarity with each other until we clear through the rough waters ahead. So
there you go.
Let's keep praying. Let's see if we can at least get a play-in win. Pray for it.
Wise words from the Bucket Patrol himself. Thank you for coming on again a second time. Guess we'll probably wrap up the season once more when we bring you on here before we go to the playoffs. Y'all may or may not be a part of it. Everybody, this podcast, I completely forgot to tell y'all to rate it this week, but been appreciating y'all on Spotify if you do. It's very easy to rate. Y'all have not had a problem rating it, so you can keep on rating. Keep on clicking the like button, all that good stuff, hitting the bell next to my name. You get a notification every time one of these drops, and I will see you next week. Appreciate y'all.